Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our community. What did they do to get started? And what are they doing to stay there? And today, I have a very special guest. I'm getting to talk to Jeff Palkowski. Jeff has his master's in HR. He is certified with the SHRM-SCP. He currently serves as the Workforce Relations Manager at the University of Wisconsin, and he's also a SHRM22 influencer. Hey, Jeff, glad to be on the show. How you doing, man?
How are you doing, Bruce? Good to see you. It's been a long time. What, at least a week or so?
It has been. You know, we just got back from the SHRM conference, SHRM22, and I wanted to get Jeff on the show today to talk about some of the takeaways from the SHRM conference. But I always like to reflect on when I first met you, though, Jeff. And for you, I've admired following you on social media for a long time. But the first time I actually met you, I believe, was at the Volunteer Leadership Business Meeting in Washington, D.C., when we were going to go on the Hill one day. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. I think it was 2019 maybe. Yep. That we actually met. I think we had been following each other on social media, and yeah, I was thrilled. I think you recognized me, came up to me, introduced yourself, and the rest is history from there.
You know, it's funny, when we were in New Orleans just last week, I met your team. And I remember it was I think it was like the 4 J's and the E.
Jackie, Jen, Jane. So there's your G's, and Jeff.
Okay.
And the eyeball was Elaine.
Elaine, yes. And Jackie mentioned that, she said, hey, have you ever had Jeff on the podcast? I'm like, no, he's on my list. And then when I got back, I was like, hey, it's time to do some takeaways. I'm going to get Jeff on the podcast. We're going to talk about some of our takeaways. So I appreciate you being on the show. But hey, before we get started with that, I would love for you to share. I mean, I guess I've known you for about 3 years now, maybe a little bit longer, but I probably don't know everything about you. I would love for you to share the Jeff Palkowski story. Like, where did you grow up, and how in the world did you get into HR and leadership?
Sure. Well, I don't know if it's an interesting story or not, but I like to start off right at the beginning if I can. So I was actually born on a Marine Corps air station in Japan. My dad was a career Marine in Marine Corps aviation, and I was actually born in Japan. And at 3 months old, came over to the States. And then for about the next 40 years or so, my life growing up and living was right outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So that's where my dad was raised, came back, retired from the Marine Corps, and that's where I grew up. My first HR job, I had a full career before actually moving into HR. I was actually working financial services. My first job out of college was working for an investment center. And it was just a time where I had my bachelor's, I needed a job, there was a job available, and boom, there you go. So I knew nothing about investments, had to learn very quickly. And it was a company that I stayed with, again, my first job out of college, stayed with them for about 10 years. And I came in an entry-level job, and I left there about 10 years later as a department head, vice president, 60 employees working for me. I mean, just quickly moved up, and I figured, hey, this is great. I'm going to do this forever. But really, there was something missing. And but the nice thing about that job was kind of where I feel I kind of was directed towards my lane. Was in that role. It was a lot of human resources, and luckily, I had a very great partner in a corporate human resources team that worked with me on everything from recruiting to employee relations. And I really got to see that side of the world, and found that it took me a while. I'll admit it took me about 3 years. So I really looked at it and said, I want to do that. And so I left that role. I actually stayed in financial services for about 3 more years, and a couple of different roles. Now, this was back in the early 2000s when everybody was buying everybody else, and we bought this company and then we got bought out. So all of these mergers, it just created a lot of chaos. And I thought about it, and I said, I can't see myself doing this for another 30 plus years. So I actually, I guess the best way to put it is I quit cold turkey. I actually went in, resigned from my job, and decided I'm going to go to school full time. Went back to school. I'd started an MBA that was kind of starting and stopping. I went back to school and said, I'm going to get this master's in human resources. I'm going to, as soon as I'm done with that, I'm going to sit for a certification, and I'm going to go in the world of HR. And, to coin the phrase of our good friend Steve Brown, I chose HR on purpose. But it really was quite a leap because, like I said, I left without knowing what I would be doing, and felt that I needed the degree, I needed the certification to kind of legitimize myself. Because if you look at my resume, there was nothing HR about it. So I
Mhm.
realized I was going to have to take a couple steps back to move forward. So I always like to talk about my first HR job was working in a staffing agency.
Oh,
And anyone getting into HR, I would recommend that, because you are at the ground level, you are boots on the ground. And I always talk about my first day. Here I am, walking in here. I felt I had a really good background, had my master's degree, walk in. And within 10 minutes, the first thing I was doing, I was handed a rubber glove and a specimen cup to conduct my first 10-panel drug test with the candidates. I'm like, that was my start. Like, what did I do? And obviously it improved from there, but I like to talk about that. Yeah, my first day in HR, whenever I talk to young professionals going into it, I tell them that, yeah, my first day was very humbling, but
mm.
I remember that, and I've learned so much along the way that that to me, that was almost the best start that I could have had to a career in HR.
That's good advice, because I know there's a lot of people listening that wonder, where is a good place to start when it comes to serving in the HR community. And I've had others share the same thing. That staffing, like boots on the ground, you get to talk to the people. I mean, I hear that's a common thread for a great start. And by the way, as you shared that story about how you said, "Hey, I quit cold turkey. I'm going to go back to school, and this is what I'm going to do." And then you quoted, of course, Steve Brown. He wrote the great book, HR on Purpose. That is being purposeful, right? And you know what it also reminded me of? The theme for the conference. So SHRM-22 this year was in New Orleans, and the theme of that was cause the effect. And to me, that it's about believing in something and then just going and doing it without being told. I would love for you to share your thoughts around the cause the effect. What does that mean to you?
Well, quite simply, and again, obviously, we were exposed to that. I guess that theme for the conference as being SHRM-22 influencers, and
Mhm.
something that we had grasped in our content and so on. So I guess the best way that I think of it is, to me, cause the effect is making a difference. And just, I guess the best way to put it is being a participant in life and not a bystander.
Mm.
It's you again, we can become very complacent sometimes, and comfortable, and kind of watch things happen. And I guess I've always preferred to be the person that makes things happen. And like the example that I gave in myself, I'm not typically a very compulsive person. I mean, so that actually took a lot for me to actually make that leap of faith, if you will. But again, I guess in that instance, I was causing the effect in my own career. I was in a career, again, being paid well, doing pretty well, but I felt there was something missing.
Mhm.
And to me, it was finding that lane. And for me, I
Mhm.
felt it was human resources. I was going to try it. I tried it, and obviously I didn't know what the outcome would be, because again, when you go into it, you are taking a leap of faith. And to me, causing the effect was, well, here's what I'm going to do. How can I make a difference? How can I not be a bystander? And I found HR was going to be the best role for me to actually put that into actual practice. And again, going back to my first job, just seeing how so much of what I did kept pointing back to HR. Everything was, and HR points directly to people, and it's really making a difference in people. And that's really what I wanted to do. And again, I have had the opportunity in many different HR roles to do it in different ways. And that's, to me, HR is causing the effect.
Yeah, I love that. Of course, we just came back from SHRM-22 in New Orleans. I don't know what the totals were. I heard about 15,000 people were in attendance, but you and I both mentioned SHRM influencers, and so for the listeners, there were I believe 21 SHRM influencers selected to really help promote, well, HR and the SHRM-22 conference. And I actually have this list. I was going to read this list real quick, just so you know. Amanda Brunson was on that list. Anish Aravan, Barbara Trottelin, Brett Farmelo, of course, Claire Petrie, Diane Fleming, Frank Kania, Jenny Stone, John Baldino, Josh Rock, Kyra Mekovich, Mary Williams, Dr. Melanie Peacock, Nicole Roberts, Steve Brown, Tim Sackett, Tina Marie Wofield, and Todd Mitchell. And then of course you and me were part of that group, and it was so great. I was just curious, like, what did you think about being a SHRM influencer, and what were your thoughts on that?
First of all, it's something I don't take for granted. This was actually my third opportunity to serve in that role. It used to be, they used to refer to themselves as the SHRM bloggers, and I had the first opportunity to participate in the SHRM 2019 conference. And then obviously then COVID happened, and then when we just started to regroup, I was able to do so in Las Vegas last year, SHRM 21, and then this third time. It's something that I think is a great thing that SHRM does, in that they're able to, you mentioned those names, and again, some of those people I met for the first time this year, some have been friends for a long time, but each one of them is an HR professional, wants to share their story, and that's kind of the platform that this allowed us to do. And it really wasn't, and I think a lot of us talked about this. I think some of us were a little uncomfortable with that term influencer, because me personally, I'm not looking to influence anybody, but it's really sharing an experience, and that's what I've been able to do each time that SHRM is allowed me to do this. And it's really share the experience from my perspective. And not everyone can attend an annual conference, so basically giving them an insight in the things that I'm seeing, the various speakers, everything that we experienced last week, being able to do that. And one final point about that is, it was actually at the time the SHRM bloggers, as they called them, that got me interested in attending an annual conference. I just started, I don't even know how it happened, but I stumbled onto the SHRM blogger, SHRM-17 blogger list, just like the list that you named for the New Orleans conference, last time they were in New Orleans.
Okay.
And I found it, but unfortunately I found it like the end of May, and the conference was like in 2 weeks, and there's no way I was going to make it. But what I did is I just started following they're all on Twitter. I followed all of them and just started watching their content. I didn't know any of them really, but and then started again just seeing what they were doing, and then learned about things like Twitter chats and how we can engage. And eventually, it always seems to come back to Steve Brown when we talk about HR, but It was actually Steve Brown who I commented on one of his posts, and he had reached out to me and said, "Hey, you need to join HR Social Hour. You need to join Next Chat and all of these different things where I could interact with others." And that had enough of an impact on me to say, I will go to the 2018 SHRM conference. And I went there solo, just went there by myself. It was down the street in Chicago, not too far from me. But I was able to show up there and met all of these people, many of them that you mentioned, Kyra Makovic, Dr. Melanie Peacock, these people that Steve Brown, I mean, people that I had just connected with online, and actually to meet them in person. And really from that point forward, it just, and they were all bloggers for that conference. And I think I just kind of hung around the bloggers lounge enough that they kind of like pulled me in, kind of like we did with you and Tina Marie last year, that we were like, hey, here's some good people. And that's just how it worked. And so, yeah, I had nothing but good things to say about the group you mentioned. I think we had a great time. I hopefully people enjoyed our content. I think we were all very positive, very enthusiastic about everything that was going on. Wanted to share all the good. Obviously with a conference of that size, not everything goes to plan, but we wanted to share the positive side of it and everything that we saw that was good and joyful. Yeah,
me and Tina Marie were adopted at the end of the conference last year. Hey, I want to touch on one thing that you've been talking about, and you said, I just dove in. I started following these influencers. I reached out and I commented. I did that. You weren't being told to do that. It reminds me of the saying, you don't have to have a title to be a leader, right? And so for the people listening, there's people listening right now to this podcast that are like, I want to do that. I want to be part of something bigger, but yet they don't know how. What drove you to do that, Jeff?
I think I can't say specifically. I can't think of a specific moment, but it was just again kind of like when I described my career early on. Again, it's always something missing. I'm always searching. I think that's how I'm wired.
Mhm,
And it was and looking back on it, it makes sense to me now. I was searching for community. I was
mhm,
searching for
mm,
those that I could reach out to that are in my same industry that kind of understand the
mm,
same struggles that I'm going through. Again, I worked with a team, a small team, and people that we work with within our own organizations. But to be able to reach out to people in this case worldwide,
mm,
that's what kind of drove me. And the more I got into it, the more I saw the value of it.
mm,
And I like to say this too, as far as those that are like thinking it might be reluctant about it. I like to say if I can do it, anybody can do it because
mm.
I'm a self-confirmed introvert. And a lot of people that meet me, they're like, "You're not an introvert." No, I can act very. I can put on the extrovert hat last week, and if you read my blog that I just put out, I'm exhausted because to me, I'm like, I know I need to be out there and energetic, but I'm more of the quiet, talk one-on-one, small groups. But like I said, so if I can kind of make that leap first of all by just jumping into social media and then now in an in-person environment, I'm confident anybody can do it.
I appreciate you sharing that so much. I know that there's some people listening that are going to get a lot of value out of that. Hey, let's talk about maybe some of your takeaways. What were some of your favorite moments? Maybe I don't know, a top five or more. What are some of your favorite moments of SHRM-22 that you're taking back and you're sharing with others?
Well, yeah, I'll give you a top five because I think it became pretty clear to me as the week went on. Obviously, there were a lot of great experiences, and I could list 50 if I wanted to, but
Yeah,
really my top 10, if I had to just go down the list,
yeah.
and number one, and again, I think this is something we probably both share in that it was seeing friends, seeing people
Mm,
that you know, we we've connected over social media. In some cases, we've met over Zoom and other platforms. But just to actually see and hear these people and hug these people, some of them we haven't seen since pre-pandemic. So, Dr. Melanie Peacock, she was a surprise. She wasn't going to be coming to this conference. She's from Canada. There's still some travel concerns, and the fact that she surprised all of us. I mean, again, seeing friends, but that if there's a 1A, would definitely seeing Melanie and surprising all of us. That was just a special moment. I know certainly for her, but for a lot of people. Uh,
I was going to stop you real quick
yeah,
because we didn't share each other's top tens, but I went ahead and wrote down my top 10 because I was going to like compare them to you. And
sure,
I have in-person networking, nothing like it. That
absolutely.
isn't that crazy. So like Dr. Peacock, you just talked about her, Melanie Peacock. Uh, there's some of the things I learned about her that I've always admired her online, but being able to actually meet her in person, totally different experience. And now I admire her even more. And so in-person events, absolutely incredible. Keep going.
Well, number two, and I know we were both here for that. It was kind of a theme, but really being reminded about the importance of mental health and the
Mm,
well-being of not just our employees but ourselves. That from the keynote with Ariana Huffington, I think so many people took so much away from that. Especially coming out of this pandemic and knowing the burnout of our employees and really the burnout of human resources professionals, because a lot of us were on the front line during the pandemic and dealing with a lot of new things that had evolved, and oftentimes we're the last, we're worrying about everyone else, worrying about our employees, and sometimes we forget about ourselves. So a lot of the reminders that she brought up, I thought that was very insightful.
And I think a lot of people are going to get to see some of the takeaways and some of the blogs shared by SHRM. So be on the lookout. I think mental health, that awareness is going to be big. And I thought Melissa Anderson, the board chair for SHRM, did a wonderful job. So excellent point.
The third one kind of goes in hand with the in-person. To me, that some of the real special moments were just connecting with people,
Mm.
and it could be sitting next to someone in a session, or I had some of the best conversations standing in line at the SHRM store, and you just start striking up a conversation, and just, I mean, there were so many people there, and I'm always amazed at a lot of people that go to these conferences again, and I was one of them. You go by yourself and you're kind of like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And you can kind of spot those people. And again, here's the introvert able to go out and say, hi, I'm Jeff, how you doing? It's your first conference. You start having conversations with people. And again, just making those connections that have been so, been missing for so long. So that was my number 3.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. As a matter of fact, I remember sitting down at lunch and meeting, I call them Team Philly. So the group from Philadelphia, Juliet and Teresa, state director there, and they were sharing just what their conference was all about. And, of course, here in Texas, we have the HR Southwest conference. And so we're comparing notes. And I think a lot of times that helps us generate ideas. And so I love that.
I think we're at number 4 now. So and again, I think we may be on the same page of this one as well. To me, the conference ended on such a positive note with the final keynote session with SHRM CEO and President Johnny C. Taylor Jr. interviewing former President George W. Bush. I mean, to have a conference and to hear, and I believe Mr. Taylor said that this is the first time in 74 years that a president, former U.S. president, spoke at the conference, and just to hear directly from the president. Obviously, our leaders, you see them through a media lens, and you see them, but to actually hear from his heart and hear how his own leadership was just really grounded in his faith and his family. I mean, he still talks so adoringly about his dad and his mom, and really, and then how he led our nation after 9/11, and how all those things kind of grounded him and provided the foundation for him as a leader. I mean, I could have listened to that for hours. I mean, that was just a great conversation.
Oh, me too. And I'll just kind of add some comments here that one of the things that at first I was a little bit not really frustrated, but I wanted to take some pictures and record and make notes. And they made a comment. You can't take there's no recording. There's no photography. You can't even take notes or you'll be escorted out. But when I reflected on that, what it did was it made me really focus and really listen. And President Bush talked about the importance of listening. And when you listen to people, you can learn about how they think. And I thought that was real powerful. And then I'm always listening for, well, what does a great leader think a great trait might be? And when he shared humility and being humble enough and to surround yourself with great people and ask them how they feel about different things and then making that decision, that was very inspiring to me. And he was so funny as he talked about his dad. Johnny C. Taylor said, okay, well, let's go to the next question. And President Bush said, but you didn't ask me about my mom. And so my eyes were full. They were just full of tears of joy, of so many emotions, that whole conference. I thought that was absolutely fascinating. And I'm gonna write a blog around that. And I thought that was real good. Okay, what's next?
To round out my top 5, last but not least, I have to say this is probably actually my favorite moment of the conference, and had nothing to do with HR, which is interesting. It was the Brad Paisley concert. I'm a huge Brad Paisley fan, and again, kind of a surprise to me as well. Our good friend, your fellow Texan, SHRM board member Paula Harvey. So she's a member of the SHRM board, and her husband was going to join her for the concert, but unfortunately he had to work. So she came up to me. She's like, "Hey, I heard you're a Brad Paisley fan. Would you like to be my +1?" And wasn't sure what that meant. I'm like, "Yeah, sure. You need somebody to go with you?" Well, little did I realize we get there, and I'm sitting behind Johnny C. Taylor Jr., right with the SHRM board and the SHRM staff, close enough to probably touch Brad Paisley. And I mean, as a fanboy, first of all, I was just impressed. I mean, this is probably the 4th time I've seen Brad in concert, certainly never that close. But the real special part about it was not just obviously, having the honor to see it from where I did, but I really got to share some special moments with some really incredible people that really I just gotten to know. 2 of them I just want to call out by name. They're part of the SHRM Executive Network, which is a new group of CHROs and HR executives, and they were kind of in the proximity as well. And the 2 people that I spent a lot of time at the concert with and got to know very well was Pam Buchanan, who's out of Chicago, an excellent HR person. She's a volunteer, met her last year, and then Mary Dale, who was on the Michigan SHRM board, just across the the lake from us here, as we like to say. And I got to know Pam and Mary, and they're just like wonderful people. We all enjoyed the concert together along with Paula, went out afterwards. And I have to say, the fact that they were somehow able to get this introvert up and dancing, yeah, more power to them, because we had a great time. And that was probably the highlight, and such a great way to kind of cap off the conference.
I appreciate you mentioning that. As a matter of fact, I got the chance to meet Mary and Pam at our influencer dinner the very first night,
Sure.
and they're amazing people. Like
They are.
And so many people at the conference. You realize how many amazing people there are serving the HR community. Great business leaders. It's so good. I was actually thinking about, yeah, Brad Paisley was absolutely fantastic. SHRM does a great job. My first SHRM conference as a volunteer leader, I believe it was Jerry Seinfeld was on in Atlanta, and he was so funny. So they do a great job of bringing on great guests, and I appreciate SHRM and what they're doing. I want to ask you this question. And by the way, how about, just real quick, how about anything else? Maybe the Expo Hall was terrific once again.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, just overall, and again, I'm somewhat new to this. I know you've been doing the conferencing, as I like to create a new verb, for quite a while, much longer than I have. I mean, this was only my 4th annual conference, but every year I've seen this evolution where it just becomes bigger and better. And yeah, the exhibition hall was amazing. A lot of the concurrent sessions that we were able to see, as well as, I mean, they always have the world-class keynotes and world-class entertainment. Just overall, I just thought it was just an incredible experience. And the one thing that was, I guess if there was a negative, if I could call a negative, is kind of, you talked about, there's so many people there. I felt there were so many people that I wanted to see and spend more time with. The 4 days just wasn't enough. I mean, I'm getting emails from people, that, oh, we just passed each other and didn't have time to talk. And that was probably the most frustrating part, that I wish we had 2 weeks, and maybe that would be enough, because there's just so many people I want to spend time with, just pulled in so many directions. But that's, if that's the negative, yeah, I'll take that.
That's so good. I had some people that were commenting on social media saying, "Hey, I hope we see each other," and we didn't see each other. I mean, it's just so big.
Yeah.
And then, there were so many great speakers. Greg Hawkes spoke for the first time. I was so excited for him, and he did an amazing job. I always enjoy seeing Steve Brown. Johnny C. Taylor is just inspiring. He's just a gifted leader. And Julie Birch, who I got to have on my podcast, she was speaking, and Jennifer McClure, she talked about being future ready. I always walk away sharing information that she's talked about. And of course, Tina Marie, we talked about her. She got to speak. It was just an incredible conference. So if you have a chance to attend in 2023, it is in Las Vegas. It's going to be a lot of fun. I tell people all the time, people ask me, "Hey, do you think I should go to this conference?" And it doesn't matter if it's the SHRM conference or the HR Southwest Regional Conference, whatever it is. And I always tell them, listen, there's 2 things you can always walk away from attending a conference. You always get ideas, always. And ideas bring value. They bring value to you. They bring value to the organization, the people you're around. And then you always connect with somebody. And that's the real joy in our careers, is when we're able to connect with people and share these experiences. And I'm so grateful for that. I want to ask you a question. You have been volunteering for SHRM for a long time. And I know you're also served as a member of the A team, I believe. How has SHRM helped you, Jeff? How's SHRM helped you grow in your leadership?
It's helped me in a lot of ways, and I had the opportunity to share this with SHRM during the conference. I was, you'll appreciate this, Bruce. I was standing in line to get my picture taken with the Cause the Effect logo at the SHRM booth, and apparently someone from SHRM spotted my SHRM bowling shirt and my SHRM high tops and pulled me out of line and say, "You need to talk. You need to tell us your SHRM story." So they asked about my SHRM journey. So I shared a little bit. I can share a little bit with you. Basically, I told them my SHRM journey started off when I was going to shift to HR, okay, I'm getting my degree, I'm getting a certification. What else do I need? I'm going to write a check to SHRM because now I can put that on my resume. So that's how it started. But then it became getting involved with the local committee for our Milwaukee chapter,
Okay.
and got involved with the legislative committee. And then eventually when I moved from Milwaukee out west to Madison, getting involved with the Madison, greater Madison area SHRM, and then eventually joined the board and got more involved, got involved with the state. It's just been an evolving process where SHRM has kind of been there along the way. From a volunteer leader standpoint, it's given me just a lot of opportunities to give back in a number of different ways. Initially, it was my passion was advocacy and government affairs. It's something that I worked 3 years in the Wisconsin State Legislature, so it was really good. It was a good match for human resources to be able to kind of to meld the two together and plan our legislative conferences for 7 years. So it's just, again, it's been opportunities. I joined the SHRM Advocacy A team. SHRM has given me the opportunity to advocate on behalf of HR issues on Capitol Hill. I think I've done that 4 times, as well as at our Wisconsin State Capitol. And then obviously the resources. I mean, there's been so many resources that I use almost on a daily basis that SHRM provides, the different tools, go to their website, get news. So again, I can't imagine working in HR now without having kind of SHRM as my partner.
Yeah.
And again, so they've helped me grow a lot, both in leadership and just being a better HR professional.
I appreciate you sharing that, because I talk to a lot of people, and I'm sure you're the same way, where you talk to people and they're like, I want to get involved, but I'm buried. I just don't have time. And it does take a little bit of time, but the value outweighs everything. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, what advice, like, for people listening? I know we've talked about a lot of different things. We've talked mainly about the conference today, but then talking about the local chapter, our state chapter. What advice would you share with others that aren't involved and may have that thought of, I'd like to get involved? What advice do you typically share?
Well, sure. And again, I think, again, it's good. SHRM's going to, or getting involved with SHRM at a chapter or state level, it's going to provide something different for everyone, because everyone has different needs. Everyone has different ability to commit as well. So I just think to get involved at any level is going to be a return on that investment. I agree. I mean, I talk to HR professionals that I'm working 50, 60 hours a week, and how am I going to possibly get involved? I mean, that's true. Timing is part of it as well. But I look at it as maybe a small investment in that is going to help you maybe reduce at 50, 60 hours, because you'll find a connection, someone that can help you. You'll find some resources. So I've found that, yes, it does require an investment in time. But I think the return on an investment is exponential. I mean, I've personally seen that. So my advice would be to just get involved. You don't have to. I mean, I joke, because I mean, my colleagues, even in the state council, they call me Mr. SHRM, because I'm always wearing it somewhere, and I'm proud of it. But it's something that I've chosen to kind of go, feet first, and I've gotten more and more involved over the years. I mean, even at this conference, like I said, I was pulled in so many directions. I wasn't able to, join some of the influencer dinners and things like that, because I was pulled with 3 other things. But you don't have to do that right away. It's something that I choose to do. But I think initially, there are so many chapters geographically located, and again, these might be people that work down the street from you at the next company, next organization. Get to know them, and it's just a simple way to get involved. And that's how I got involved, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And it may for you, it may not. I mean, it's fine. We have a lot of individuals that are just comfortable volunteering, attending events with their local chapters, and other that like to, again, chapter, state, national, do it all. And that's kind of where I am. And it's like, I now make the time for those things.
I love that. I appreciate you sharing that, Jeff. I will tell you that you used a word earlier that I think at the end of the day sums it up, and it's about community. Steve Brown, I heard him talk back in 2019, I believe, and he made a comment. I share this all the time. He said, we all need at least 5 people outside the workplace that we can go talk to. And I think that's what these local associations do for us, is they give us that outlet, the people. They give us a chance to to build those relationships. And so I appreciate you. I told you time was going to fly by. And so I want to get to the last part of this the show. I called It's Time to Accelerate. I like to ask a few fun questions as we wrap up here. Hey, first question I would like to ask is, would you rather read a book or listen to a podcast?
I would give you a different answer 2 years ago. It definitely would have been podcast. Working in the office, I have about an hour commute each way, and it was podcast every day. Listening to your podcast, HR Social Hour, a lot of different podcasts, getting so much valuable information. It made the drive go so quick. Well, now I'm primarily remote. I go in a couple times a month to the office. So on those days, yes, it is a podcast, but I'm finding I'm leaning more towards books. And I don't know if you can see it here, but I've got some of my books here. I have a really bad habit. I like to get a lot of books and start reading them, and I'm probably about a quarter of the way through all of them, and I need to finish them. But I'm right now I'm obviously and I'm almost actually through Life in the Leadership Lane. So
I love it.
Your book is, because it's on top here, so I'm almost done with that. But I'm also reading Johnny C. Taylor Jr.'s book Reset.
Yep.
I'm reading a book by Lori Rudiman called Betting on You.
Yep.
And then I'm sure I have some others here as well. So I'm really into the books right now.
I love that. As a matter of fact, I picked up a book. I'm the same way. I've got these books. I've got 3 books I'm into, and I've got Dr. Alex Alonso's Taboo Talk.
Oh, sure.
Talking Taboo that I'm getting ready to dive into. So, and we just got through reading Reset in our book club. That is a fantastic book. So, okay, that's good. Oh, I love that, man. Hey, how about what energizes you outside of work? Outside of SHRM, outside of all the stuff you do in the workplace, what energizes you, Jeff?
Well, I was going to say, besides SHRM, because I do spend a lot of my downtime or away from work time doing things with SHRM, but I really have to drill it down to really some very simple things. I mean, the things that energize me, keep me going besides SHRM, besides work, I just drill it down to it's really my faith. I love to travel. Love our dogs. My wife and I, we have two dogs, and they keep us busy as well. Another thing about me is I can't sit still. I don't know if you can tell that if it's coming through on here, but I cannot sit still, which is it's in direct contrast to my wife, who just likes to sit back. So sometimes what I'll do if I need a pick me up, and my wife is off doing something, I'll just jump in my car alone and say, I'm going to take a road trip and just take a couple of hours and just tool around Wisconsin. And I know you follow me on social media, so you might see hashtag Day of Jeff. So that's what I call it, where I just kind of get out, do something different, go to some town, go somewhere where I haven't been before. And again, it's just discovering, and then come back and I'm energized.
That's awesome. I love that. Day of Jeff. Hey, I got one final question. It's probably my favorite question. Jeff, 10 years older, is knocking at your front door, and you're going to go answer that door. What's he going to tell you?
Well, I would hope that I would tell myself, enjoy the journey. There's so many things that you're going to experience, great things, meet so many great people along the way. Just take some time and savor it. It's not always about the destination, but to me, it's worrying not so much about where you're going, but what happens along the way. Again, I just look back. I mean, even as we're kind of talking about SHRM, I look back at my SHRM experience, and so many great experiences and great memories. And just this past week, I mean, I have just so many memories that were made. Again, I would say to myself, savor those things, because don't take them for granted. Obviously the pandemic kind of had a lot of us kind of shift, because a lot of that was taken away from us, and now having it back, again, just enjoy the journey. I guess it would be as simple as that.
That's a wise, older Jeff Palkowski. I love it. You're definitely driving in the leadership lane, my friend. Hey, for those who want to connect with you, they want to follow you, maybe learn more about you, how is the best way for them to connect?
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm out on social media, so you can certainly find me on LinkedIn, Jeff Palkowski. On Twitter, my Twitter handle is Jeff Pally. Pretty easy to remember. I also blog occasionally, probably more so around our conferences, but occasionally I'll get the urge to blog again when I have the time. And then my blog is called HR Sushi Bar. So again, something kind of easy to remember. So
Makes me hungry. HR sushi bar. I love it. Hungry for HR. Hey, Jeff, I appreciate you coming on today, just sharing your wisdom and perspective. You're definitely an influencer, great leader, someone I admire and I've admired for a long time. And I can't wait to see what it looks like for the road ahead for you and for the HR community. And I can't wait to share this conversation. So thank you again for being on the show.
Well, thank you. Like I said, I'm truly honored to be on here. Life in the leadership lane, something that I've obviously admired from afar as well. You're doing great work. Like I said, I was a little surprised when you invited me on. I'm like, I see all these great leaders you have. I mean, from football coaches to CHROs. I'm like, I've been one of those people that I've actually been proud to. Most of my life has been leading without the title. But I think I like to hopefully demonstrate that you don't need the title to lead, and I'm going to continue to lead in whatever my title may be. So again, I do appreciate spending the time with you today.
Awesome. And a big shout out to Wisconsin SHRM State Chapter. I was so glad to meet everybody. And thanks again for being on the show. And can't wait to share the conversation, my friend.
Thank you.